Okay, it looks like we are back up again. I'm going to monitor it more closely this time, and I apologize. I have absolutely no idea why this is happening. No idea at all. It's completely mysterious. It couldn't possibly be interference. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with the slides that I have, the topics that I'm talking about, or whether somebody doesn't want you to hear this or not. Couldn't have anything to do with that at all, obviously. This is very strange too, because last time it turns out that I was able to stop the stream and then restart the stream with the same stream key. And this time I was not able to do that. That ability was removed. So I literally had to close my browser, close Wirecast, reopen my browser, reopen Wirecast, and start the whole thing over again. Oh, somebody says it was breaking up right from 2 minutes in. Okay, so, the bottom line, once again, is that we can do 1080p, but we can't do 1440p live. Even though I have the bandwidth, it really doesn't actually work. It's a beautiful, clear, sunny day. We got a straight line to the dish, but, I'm never going to be able to get 1440 to work. So I guess from now on, I just won't try, and I'll just keep it at 1080. Okay, everybody seems to be happy now. I'm going to read some of your stuff. Hello from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Welcome back, my friend. I want to say I love you. Can't watch it live because it's my bedtime. Sorry about that. Lots of double talk. Chad Kosakowski. I'm not sure what you mean by that. David won't tell you about XRP and the QFS. I'm not even sure what that is, so I guess I won't tell you about that. Quantum financial system or something? Wow, there is no stopping this information from coming out. It works well now. Okay, this is much better. I think you should not worry about the camera angles and just talk with your slides. Well, but if I could do camera angles and slides, isn't that cool too? Think about it, folks. It could be a lot more. And somebody's texting me upstairs, but I can't obviously answer text when I'm on the phone, which is kind of like what this is a phone call in a way. So, in case you missed the first one, we're going to re-upload all this, but here is the slides again, where I was talking about the biggest signposts of what's going on, and again, because I was so rudely attacked, this is nail biter kind of thing for everybody, and we were talking about that last time. Then we have, of course, Elon buying Twitter and what appears to be a very ingenious plan to expose the amount of false traffic that was going out there. And I talked about after the 2016 election and 2017 that Twitter was just an absolute stomping ground against the cabal, and they put an end to it. They changed everything around, and now that's all come to a head. So this suggests that there's some kind of pipeline being prepared for contentious information to come out in the hopes that the information may be less suppressed. And then, of course, again, going back to the movie, we now have very much actionable information that suggests to me that within even a week or two, this could lead to indictments, arrests, and so on. There's no ambiguity here, and it's becoming very clear how this was done, why this was done, etc. Now, I have always contended, and I continue to do so, that all of this that we're seeing in the world is not an accident. It's an organized effort. It's done on purpose, and it's done to save the planet. We're actually seeing a very amazing thing going on right now. So the next one that was on my list here was, of course, this decision from the Supreme Court that was leaked in advance of it coming out. And it's very interesting because for many years, I used to be the only one, or one of the only people online. In many cases, I was the only person writing articles or doing podcasts or videos online who was aware of the degree to which wag the dog type of stuff was happening, of the degree to which a public event is actually a follow-up to something else that was considered embarrassing, and that there's a need for distraction. This is far, far more common than we think. And again, what are they trying to do? They're trying to agitate the left. They're trying to get those people all riled up, get those people out on the streets. Honestly, if the people in Oklahoma want to pass a law that says they're not going to do third term, so what? Honestly, so what? Because everybody got brainwashed by something from the 1970s, which is really probably, I would say, not going to be apt to happen now. And that is the dreaded coat hanger situation. So bear in mind, folks, I was raised in a liberal state. I was raised in upstate New York. And everybody, the whole educational system is pro-abortion. It is. That's just, you're indoctrinated with that perspective when you grow up. And so, of course, in college and in high school and so on, I was told that women were taking coat hangers and injecting it into themselves and killing themselves, actually, or causing permanent harm. And I have no doubt that this really happened. However, to me, it's a responsible decision to hand it back to the states simply because some states are so radical. And it costs not that much money to take a bus ride. So, like, to think that everybody, if you don't have it in your state, that you're just simply only going to use this one option and commit suicide, I just don't think that's realistic in today's world. People are enterprising, they're resourceful, they have the internet, they can look things up, they can figure out how to do that. So it really shouldn't be a big deal. And in fact, it's to try to get people mad about Roe at this point is almost like an artifact of a forgotten age. Like, guys, there's stuff that's a lot more upsetting to us right now than whether Oklahoma gets to have their own say in how they write their state law. There's stuff that's a lot more upsetting. And so we're not going to run out into the streets. Real people are not going to run out into the streets about this. In fact, most people are like, yeah, it probably is a good thing for the red states to be able to calm down about this. A federal mandate, anyway. So that's a big, big topic. But you got to remember, and everybody's becoming clear on this, how can you kick the can around? How can you keep people distracted? Well, you can also have something like what we just saw in upstate New York. And again, incredibly, incredibly sad, but probably a lot more than just what it looks like on the surface. Then we have something that you really don't hear a whole lot about, and this is a very interesting thing if you're actually following what really is happening here, and this is the raid on Deutsche Bank. Now, Deutsche Bank has really been kind of like the center of the deep state financial system for a long time. I've heard this briefing many times. I've had insiders tell me for years and years and years, watch Deutsche Bank, because once Deutsche Bank goes down, that means that they have not been able to stop their defeat. When that happens, even if nothing else is going on, if you see that happen, you know something's going on. But now this has happened in concert with other things going on. Plus we have the mysterious protective fence around the Federal Reserve building in the D.C. and New York area. I guess there's different ones, but I think it's in the D.C. areas where they've got the protective fencing. But anyway, if you don't really see what's going on here, this might not make sense, but there's a vast... Imagine that the entire World War III was fought covertly. Imagine that the entire World War III didn't happen on the television, and you never got told what it really was until it was over. That's what I believe this is, folks. And so the infrastructure, the financial aspect of what's going on has been exposed. And so there are arrests going on under the basis of credible warrants, and they are sealed, and then they unseal them to make the arrest, and then they seal them again. And this has been going on for years, and I'm getting a lot of good intel on this. So most of the work is already over, and there's a lot more to come, and it's coming very, very soon. So again, I really want you to look at the things that are on this list that I'm showing you and tell me if they don't all interconnect in very, very interesting ways. And here's another one that's absolutely huge. First of all, we had Ezra on a particular app that is synonymous with the original form of electronic communication. I'm being very careful. That account, I believe, is real. I've watched it for a long time, and he says a lot of really provocative stuff there that has definitely caught my attention on many, many occasions. And so Ezra just recently is talking about, Bluebeam, the idea of a hologram, the idea of eye in the sky, apparently this being a code name for something, Bluebeam related, that there is in fact the possibility of this being used at the end. Now, I think that's what's already happening in China, honestly, because in the big city that recently has had so much trouble, you saw these pulsing blood red lights in the sky, the whole sky pulsing with blood scarlet red light. That is not natural. That does not happen. It's not atmospheric sprites. It's not the ozone layer. It's not northern lights. Okay? It's not caused by any type of atmospheric phenomenon that would be a conventionally explained thing. This is caused by holograms. And what I'm really worried about is the possibility of something that looks like it's solid, but it's actually made out of a swarm of drones. In other words, you could have a solid object. I think they did this in one of the King Kong movies where you have apparently like a creature, right? But then it turns out that as his arm is moving, that it's just a bunch of little drones in there, and the hologram makes it look like it's his arm, and if he hits the wall, the drone could shoot the wall and make it look like he did that. So you have to understand, these people are really, really into the whole Wizard of Oz thing, the man behind the curtain, lying to you, deceiving you, presenting something as if it was real when it really isn't, presenting something as if it was high technology when it really isn't. This is why, again, the TR-3B flying black triangle is really a hot air balloon. And the TR-4 is actually much more interesting. And again, go to thedisclosure.com if you want to actually see a picture of the TR-4 in our latest video there. So this red sky and then this very, very horrific situation in that city where people are literally screaming to death in their houses. Yeah, scream to death in your house because we want to save you. We're saving you because we don't want you. I mean, it's so ridiculous, right? Like, we want to save you. We want to make sure that you don't get sick because you might die. So let's just lock everybody in their house and they'll scream, scream, scream. We don't give a crap. We just got to. So now the official Chinese media is saying that he was too harsh on his lockdowns and that he has been removed. This is freaking gigantic. It's gigantic. Look at this list again, folks. Look at all the things that are happening right now. Okay? And then that doesn't even include the overwhelming fact that people are facing up to the very, very uncomfortable realities having to do with our elected officials. So look at this. This actually did happen. Tyrannical Canadian government will pay people who are too poor to continue living with dignity. Yeah, we'll help you out. We'll help you out. If you don't have enough dignity to be alive, sure, we'll just give you that euthanasia, and then you'll be all good. Well, at least they're being a little more honest. We got to give them credit for the honesty factor here, that why not just actually offer it to people without deception, without subterfuge? Hey, if you're too poor, you go for it. Here you go. It's so crazy, folks. That guy who's being interviewed, by the way, is not in support of this, okay? He's not arguing in favor of this at all. He's very, very angry about it. So then we take a look at this, and I'm not going to read all this out loud because I really can't, but you get the point. If you take a couple seconds to take a look at my screen here. They hid it from us. They didn't want you to know about things that would help you. They didn't want you to know about antidotes and remedies. This suggests that a bunch of dorks really did want to ace a bunch of human beings, and that they are doing this, and that in fact, again, we've seen that the losses are way up, and this is incredibly sad, but it is a collateral damage, unfortunately, a consequence of war, the result of there being a situation where we have more than one way in which this thing could work out. And if we hadn't have had this happen, if this hadn't have been allowed to occur, we probably would have lost the whole planet. And that's one of the key messages of Archangel Michael, is the significance of having allowed this disaster to occur as part of a greater, obviously very, very elaborately coordinated international military campaign to awaken and quote-unquote red pill the public. So this is also going on right now, as if we don't already have enough to deal with, as if we don't already have enough nonsense going on in the world. Now there's this crazy heat wave going on in Texas, and again, it's way too early. It's only May. Their power grid is already strained. This is not natural. Got to be on the slide though, right? That's the point. That's not natural, folks. I'm sorry, it's not. And thankfully, I'm right over in the green spot just to the left of it in Colorado. It hasn't hit here yet. So I'm actually very comfortable. We're having nice warm weather. It's the first time yesterday that I went outside without a jacket on. We've had basically winter right up until now. So I don't really want a big summer heat wave yet. I'd like to have some actual spring. And then we have this whole issue with like baby formula going out and you know, why are they sending it to the border when they should be, that whole thing, you know, and that's another issue that is obviously very contentious right now. And then we have this, yeah, we'd like to make lab-produced breast milk. I think it's actually going to be very tasty. Might help, you know, produce fewer effects of climate change. I hate this man. And I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sorry, Bill, I'm sorry. But I had to do another impersonation because you obviously have not taken over the good in favor of the bad in your own psyche and in your own heart. All right, so anyway, enough of this conspiracy stuff. Let's talk about where I think this is really going and what is really going on here. So when we look at the big picture of why all of these things are happening in the world, I would encourage you to widen the aperture dramatically beyond the scope of what you thought was true and even possible. Because my line of reasoning, my work over many, many years has led me to be convinced with very, very strong certainty that we are living in a conscious universe, that we are not living in a dead Cartesian universe like the one that our scientists think of, in which they pray to God on Sunday, supposedly, and then debunk God's existence during the weekdays. There was an unholy alliance between church and state where the church said, let us handle God and you handle science. And we're going to keep the two separate, which means that science tells you God doesn't exist. Science tells you that you don't have a soul, or that if, you know, that once you die, your consciousness is the result of electrical activity in your brain, and once that brain no longer functions, you cease to exist. Well, the new science that I've been spending the last 25 years going public about teaches us that the universe is actually made of consciousness. The intrinsic consciousness that you are using right now as you watch this video and as you hear me speak and as the sound vibrations are moving the speaker in your computer equipment, which is causing the air in the room to vibrate, is causing the sound of my voice to hit your eardrums, vibrate the pinna, go into the cochlea, and send electrical stimulus to your ear that leads to you perceiving this as a sound, and then because other parts of your brain are working, you understand that those sounds make speech, and you're able to interpret and understand what I'm saying. This is obviously a very complex biochemical mechanism, and at the same time, we now have evidence that the body is not needed for consciousness, and I got this all the way back in college with studies that I learned in various psychology classes I was taking about people who had no brain tissue because they had something called water on the brain or hydroencephaly. The entirety of their brain is compressed down to the size of a slice of bologna that lines the interior of the skull all the way around, just like a SCOBY, like if you're growing kombucha culture or something. They have this little bitty thin, eighth of an inch thick brain tissue around the inside of their skull, and everything else is water, and yet this guy had a 127 IQ and graduated from Cambridge University with a degree in mathematics. Where was his brain? It was almost entirely gone, and yet he was still able to function. They've also done this with salamanders, where they've burned almost their entire brains out. They've vivisected them. It's very disgusting. But while they're alive, they destroy their entire brain. And with almost every single part of the brain destroyed, the salamander can still remember how to get through a maze. It's a hideous experiment, and I would never do this, but it's been done. But when we go deeper than this, we start to find out that the universe is made of photons, and photons are curiously geometric. Einstein's model of electromagnetic energy being the underpinning of the universe is fundamentally saying that light is the underpinning of the universe, because if E equals mc squared, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. All that Einstein stuff really goes around light. And his idea of trying to build the universe from electromagnetic energy was an attempt to adhere to the traditional religious sophism of, in the beginning there was light. Well, it's true. The universe is made of photons, and the photons are produced by consciousness. So you can create photons with your consciousness. And when you read the Law of One, which again is this spiritual authority source that I've been using as a cornerstone of my work since 1996, again going back 26 years, the Law of One makes it very clear that we are in a holographic reality and that it's made by consciousness. And they presented many scientific concepts that were very ahead of their time. This was 1981, and it was done by a group of 3 people using intuitive protocols. They used their own psychic abilities to bring in these words, and the words were very profound. And so I've lived in this alternative modality of existence that the Law of One provided me with ever since I discovered it in January of 1995, I believe, or 96. No, it was 96, definitely 96. So January 96 is when I first found this. And I want to say what an impact the Law of One had on my life. I mean, I've had synchronicity my whole life, where I look at the clock and I see 444, 333, 1111, 1010, all these different types of number patterns. And if you're not really hip to what's going on here, this may not make any sense to you, but when you begin a path of conscious seeking, when you begin a path of spiritually looking for answers, synchronicity is the most common way that God, if you will use that term for a minute, will begin speaking to you. And it's not that difficult to see. You're going to start having very strange things happening. You're going to be thinking about something really profound. You haven't looked at the clock in a really long time. You go, hey, what time is it? And then you look at the clock and it's 11:11 or it's 3:33. Wow. This started happening to me back when I was still in high school and having a very, very difficult life and hopeless and sad, and just dealing with all the bullying and all the teenage angst that happens to so many people as they're growing up. It was a very interesting thing to encounter this greater spiritual reality in the Law of One, which answered so many questions I'd had throughout my life and explained by 96 why for the last 4 years I kept constantly seeing these repeating numbers on clocks everywhere. I mean, it was just getting to be crazy. So this is not something that happens to everybody, but it's a very common way in which, again, the universe will teach you that it is a conscious hologram. Now, one of the things that the Law of One has taught us that has created no lack of incredible anger and madness and fear and pain. I was just seeing it again with Mike's video, the one I put up on the eon of brightness there. Take those words, put them in the opposite direction. You know what I'm doing. Anyway, wow. Some of the comments on my latest video on Mike's thing are incredibly aggressive and incredibly nasty. And it kind of made me wonder, did Jesus say anything other than what's in the Bible? Did Jesus ever speak more than the words that are attributed to him in the Bible? Well, obviously, yes, right? Obviously, yes. There's a lot more that would have actually been said. There was a lot more going on than we think. And the Law of One just blows the lid off of the whole thing by saying, wait a minute, everybody. Jesus is not just some spiritual figure who came to earth in order to be loved by people. Jesus was actually a very interesting and special thing where the mind of our galaxy embodied into human form. And that's not common. That doesn't usually happen, apparently. So the name in the Law of One that they use for the galaxy is logos. And in Greek, that also means word. So logos, word, these terms are all interchangeable. And this raises some interesting ideas. Jesus says in the book of John, it wasn't by Jesus, but the book of John at the beginning says, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So in the beginning there was the Logos, and the Logos was God, and the Logos was with God. That's how you could actually read that in the original Aramaic and Greek. In the beginning there was the Logos, and the Logos was God, so that's God the Father, and the Logos was with God, that's God the Son. So God the Son, in the Law of One terms, is literally the mind of our galaxy, which is the Logos. It is the cosmic creator that designed these 22 archetypes, a pattern of soul evolution, a blueprint, if you will, that we're all apparently supposed to be following here. So it's very interesting to see how all this happens, because the Logos had to do this through a very specific process. Oops, I got to go back to the... So Jesus didn't just have it guaranteed when he showed up as a human being that his mission would work. This is important. This is one of the things the Law of One tells us. That Jesus actually had to fulfill a contract with God the Father through his own free will. And it was through his own diligent spiritual work, through the purification of his personality, that he thus was able to embody the Logos. Okay? What they're saying is that Jesus achieved something, going back to the slide, called personality transparency. And so by doing this in Law of One terms, when Jesus achieved personality transparency, that means he... So all of this stuff really, really has everything to do with what's going on now and why we have to be so vigilant. So let me get back to, just like Vigilant Thor, or Valiant Thor, right? You got Vigilant too. Okay, so let's now go into our global peace meditation, if I can find the right button, because I don't want to keep talking and I've already been... Oh, Randy Cooper says, hurry, I have to clean my dishes. Okay. Well, we'll speed it up just for you, Randy. How about that? Okay, so... don't freak out about all the stuff that I just put in the list. This is what happens when you're at the end of something that people don't really see what it is yet. If you have a revolution, that kind of thing, you don't really find out about it until it actually happens, unless you're very astute and you can see the signs coming. But a lot of times these things happen spontaneously, and for most people they're a huge surprise as one administration suddenly turns into something else. Okay? It can often be a huge surprise. A lot of people are not seeing where this is going. You probably are, because you're studying the same kind of data that I am. And we can help activate that timeline that we want right now. So let's do that together. Are you ready? So I'd like you to begin by placing both feet flat on the floor. And just let yourself breathe deeply, becoming more and more relaxed. Relaxation moving through your body, through every cell of your body, filling with beautiful light. The colors, the sounds of consciousness entering into your mind, the fulfillment of the promise, the fullness of the actualization of what it is that you've always wanted to be, and the world that you have always wanted to live in. Now, everything is changing. We can invoke the virginal mind, step away from the staggering contradictions of what we are seeing now, and step into the faith and the trust and the peace of where this is going, where our planet is taking us. By decree of Archangel Michael, we are free now. This is his demand for the entirety of planet Earth. And he stopped the winds to underline the lesson. Do not be afraid of what you are seeing take place in the world today. It is not the end. It is merely the last vestiges of a dying world order that secured control through deception, theft, murder, lies, and betrayal. We no longer need this type of experience on Earth to mirror our collective karma back to ourselves. By decree of Archangel Michael, we are free now, and we are moving back into the purity that we once were, the purity that can redefine our existence as we learn to take our lessons and accept that the universe is love. It is a loving consciousness, and we are here to learn to love one another. And these epic villains are only there to trigger the Great Awakening. For where we go one, we go all. And so it is. Now I'd like you to breathe your way back into the room, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Come on back with me now. Thank you for participating in this meditation. Thank you for being here with me in this show. Sorry that I cried, but it didn't seem like you guys were that upset about it. This is a very exciting week. I do want to pop in more. I'm going to be very much focused on getting that Archangel Michael book out to you and getting the Ascension Philosophy course outlined, written up, and launched. Maybe we can start the course really soon, maybe in a week or two. I got to give it a little bit of time before we actually start the show so that people can find out about it and that they have a chance to order it, but it's only going to be a few weeks. So Ascension Philosophy, I'm going to get way more into the executive function teachings that I've been given about the inversion of the mind's eye into the environment. More exercises, a lot more stuff is coming in that course. And again, Michael Prophecies, we're going to be releasing it on thedisclosure.com. I will have it available in an audiobook format. In fact, I even have a nice little lower third here if I can find it. No, it's gone. Okay, never mind. I had to reopen the thing. So anyway, that's all the time that we have for today. Don't be afraid in the next coming days because I'm expecting very, very, very big things to be happening. The best thing I can advise you to do is to meditate, to breathe. Don't act like everything is so important. Just be good to yourself. Take some time off. Take a bath if you need to. Don't feel like you got to be so busy. Don't feel like you got to study all the news. Don't let your mind get all riled up. Sleep when you can. If you're having insomnia, sleep when you can. And keep on using the power of prayer because that is the calling. The biggest thing that these angelic beings need is they need you to actually pray to them. Because the Law of One makes it very clear that unless you do, they cannot act. Therefore, the more of us who ask for help, the faster we're going to get through this. Your vote counts because each additional person voting in favor of light and love adds exponentially to the size of the calling. And they calculate what they can do based on the size of the calling. That means that even a few people multiply into a very, very significant effect. So if I have done one thing today, maybe I have built your faith to get you to be a little bit more confident about what's going on, to be a little more prayerful and meditative in your daily life, and to learn most of all, to just be kind to yourself. You don't need to feel so bad about everything. You don't need to feel like you're a bad person. You don't need to feel like you're someone who deserves to be abused, because that's what the deep state is showing you. And again, I was trained in this in college. I was trained in domestic violence. I was trained in perpetrators. I studied this academically, so I know a lot more about this than usual. And when the person starts hitting, it's because they're losing control and they are afraid, and they are trying to maintain their grip on power. And what we're seeing right now is the equivalent of them hitting us. This is where it comes to an end, because the human population has decided we don't like being hit. We like to fight back, and we are fighting back. And this is where it's going. And I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my information, to listen to what I have to tell you. Even if you can't believe everything that I said is true, I think you will be greatly, greatly surprised by the quality and the depth of the Michael prophecies. So please, again, go to thedisclosure.com. I'm going to try to get the darn thing recorded as an audiobook this coming week, but first I got to get the interpretations written. And I was going to do it now, but then I said, wait a minute, things are so crazy, I've got to squeak out a video before I make the product. So hopefully I'll get this product done in the coming week. Hopefully I'll be back with you on a video very soon to launch the product, because product launch is going to be several videos. That's going to be a lot of fun. I've got tons of slides I haven't even gone through. We're going to talk about solar cycles. Many more things are coming up. Sorry that it ended up being, 3 hours plus once again. But this is David Wilcock. I love you. I'm not suicidal, okay? I'm having a great time. I've been through the bad stuff. I'm feeling great now. I'm enjoying being alone. I'm enjoying the meditation. I'm enjoying playing music. I'm enjoying doing this video. And I want to do more. I now feel a lot more comfortable about this. And I want to get on the camera, and I want to use this talent that I have to help you. So with that said, I'm David Wilcock, signing off. We will see you next time. Thank you for watching, and may the light and love of the One Infinite Creator be with you. When does he hit stop?